Hi everyone, it's Lori here at Find Me in the Greenhouse. I'm making an introductory video today of the garden areas that I have, just so we can kind of know where we're starting from, at least today. I've been working on the areas in our garden for several years now, about 3 years. And so we'll kind of go over what we have planted in what space. I'm going to start in the area that we call the teardrop. It's an area in front of our house that has a koi pond in it. Koi pond, we have goldfish in it, but it's got a little bit of a waterfall, so you can kind of see it right here behind me a little bit. And around the back of the waterfall here, I have that planted. And then there are two smaller areas on either side in front of it that are planted, and then just some trees and bushes throughout. So I'm going to actually switch angles and show you what it looks like kind of from the front door of the house. So you can kind of see what we look at when we walk out the front door. I'll start here, and then we'll see what other time we have today to check out some more of our spaces. Here we go. So this is the area we call the teardrop. This is vastly changed since we moved here. Let's see, the railroad ties were not here. We pulled out some edging that looked similar to this edging that we have in front of the house. We've pulled that out, put the railroad ties down. We pulled up, there was a lot of different weeds and stuff here, laid down weed fabric, put the rock down, put the stepping stones down, which I love because they look like tree cuttings. If you look at them, we got them at Lowe's. They're really cool. But they look like, tree stumps that you can kind of walk on. There's a little tiny garden here. We have some zebra grass back there. We have a garden here. And then a little planting area around the waterfall back there. So this trellis I got at Amazon. And I have some little fairy lights that are kind of woven through there, along with a climbing rose on each side, which the one on the left side died, so I've got to pull that out, and then clematis on each side as well. So this is the second year for the clematis. You can see the left side got up all the way to the top. The right side is still climbing. It's about a little over halfway up. So hopefully it'll look better next year. We have some Russian sage, which is probably over 5 years old, and it's really thinned out. So I don't know if I need to dig it up, maybe separate it, replant it. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that, or if there's a lifespan for Russian sage, and I may have to get a new Russian sage. But it actually has spread. You can see back there. There's kind of a little strand of Russian sage there, a little strand of it right here. So it's kind of grown much larger than it originally was. Our bees love it. We've got some salvia down here. There's echinacea there, and some rudbeckia in there that I cut back recently. I have some autumn colors rudbeckia too. This is what they look like. They're probably one of my favorites because of the different colors. Kind of an orangey brown. I love this. I've got lots of milkweed in this garden because we have monarchs. So I want to do that monarch way station thing. There's a website you can go to become an official monarch way station. So I think I might do that. I'll show you one of our caterpillars that we're watching closely to see if he's going to make a chrysalis soon, or she, don't know. I've got some nepeta here. I've got some rose bushes. There's balloon flowers, echinacea, rudbeckia, yarrow, all in this bed. And I've got an iris here too. This rudbeckia here is kind of in the dying off stage, but it actually had overtaken this rose here. So a lot of it that was here I cut back because it was overgrown. But I didn't want to cut back too much of it because I still have some milkweed, and I know that the monarch caterpillars tend to crawl over to a different plant that's not necessarily milkweed and do their chrysalis. So I wanted to leave some of it up here, and I can show you the little guy I'm watching. He should be right here. You can kind of see him. He's just munching on the edge right there. He's been hanging out on one of these two plants for a while. He's getting bigger, so I'm hoping he'll be hunting for a site for a chrysalis soon. We have some creeping thyme, as you can see right down here. There's some bee balm in here that I cut back. Some creeping phlox. I've got my bag because I just did all the cuttings not too long ago. But this is what this flower bed looks like. There's also a rose right back in here that's really hard to see because it got overgrown. I think what I'm going to do is, oh, there's a swallowtail. Oh, they're so pretty. If he lands, I might be able to. Oh, where did he go? He's trying to find somewhere to go. Anyway, sorry, back to this distracted squirrel. So yeah, we're leaving some of this up so that if they make a chrysalis, I don't cut it down. I don't want to do that. But this bed is the only bed that I have milkweed in. And I have to be very careful because that stuff spreads fast. So I got to get the pods off of them and only put them where I want. So that's what this bed looks like. And then we have this bed over here. This one has some denim and lace sage. I've got an eryngium, which these suckers spread like nuts. You can see here I've kind of pulled out some of them, but they keep growing back. One bad thing about eryngium, they're beautiful though. If you see this bright blue, and they kind of dry very similarly. So if I were to cut that off and dry it, it would look like that. It's so neat. I like it in flower arrangements. But like I said, it does spread, so be aware. I've got a balloon flower agara here. I've got a lot of echinacea. You can see kind of, I leave up for the finches. They love the thistle. I have some yarrow over here. There's a baptisia. No, Amsonia over here. More Rudbeckia. I have it's a sedum. I can't remember which exact one it was. I got on the Lowe's clearance rack. Back in black, maybe. Nepeta again here. And then I have a hardy geranium back here in this corner. It's the Boom Chocolata, if you can see it. I've got phlox in here. That's a baptisia that is still living, but was mostly dead when I planted it. So it actually looks, I'm hoping it'll look even better next year. And I've got some delphinium here that are like this neon blue earlier in the spring. So, and then my lavender. This is the only lavender plant I've been able to grow. Everything else I tend to kill. We have clay soil here, which sometimes keeps the water, and lavender doesn't like the water. This one, for whatever reason, is loving life. So yeah, it's just gonna stay here, and I usually cut it all the way back because I don't want it to get the woody texture. So I just cut it all the way back in the spring. We have cattails, and we have, you can see one of our fishes, maybe. A couple of them. Or you can see more of them by the waterfall. So we have some cattails in here. They spread, so we have to pull them out. We never had any lily pads or the flowers that go with them until the last couple of years. So this flower is so pretty it looks fake, but that is a real flower here. This is probably the fourth or fifth one. So I'm going to yank some of these out because they did not used to be this big, and they just keep growing and growing. So I am going to yank these out. My mother-in-law has some as well, but hers are yellow. And so I did pull up one of the rhizomes from her pond this weekend. And I'm just kind of keeping it quarantined from mine. I know some of mine have that yellow stuff on it, and that might be a fungus among us. I don't know. But hers were kind of similar, so I didn't want to introduce something else. So I got it put in there. You can see the rhizome actually looks really cool. It almost looks like a pine cone, if you can see it there. And it has a lot of new growth, even like right in here. But I pulled off all the lily pads that didn't look so good, and I'm just kind of keeping it here for now, just to make sure that it's going to do okay. And then we're going to yank a lot of this out, and then hopefully we'll have pink and yellow flowers, so that'll look pretty. So that's what this is. Now I need to weed a lot of this. You can see I have a lot of thistle here, but this is real life. My husband and I both have full-time jobs. I work in healthcare. He works for the government. So we get done what we can get done when we can get it done. That's about all there is. And unfortunately, if it rains on the weekends, we have weeds that overtake us. So that's life for us. Here we have a Nepeta. We have a Boom Chocolata hardy geranium again. Lots of Rudbeckia. Got lots of moths and butterflies all over these here. There is a dark colored salvia here, and I can't remember what that is called. There's also a creeping veronica. There's a baptisia that looks a lot prettier than the other one. I've got my peonies here in the back, well, in the very back here. This is another hardy geranium. Peonies back there that I'm going to have to cut down soon. I've got a echinacea here, some yarrow. I do have some supertunias, more creeping veronica. I think I planted this, but I am not sure what this is, so I'm gonna have to look that up. More yarrow back there. I've got some autumn joy sedum. Yarrow spreads, so it has spread all the way down here. I do have some creeping phlox down here. This is an obedient plant, and I hear that it spreads too, but right now it doesn't really have space to spread into the rock, so if it fills in this area, I'm fine with that. More echinacea. I've got some dark side of the moon astilbe back here in the back. This area got a little crazy because this weeping willow tree, it didn't used to be here. It took off, and then all of the branches were down to the ground. So they were down hanging over this too. And then that grew really weird because the sun wasn't getting to it. So I kind of limbed it up a little bit so that you can kind of see under the tree. And so now I need to kind of cut some of this back so it grows a little bit better here. There's some more salvia back here. There's some delphinium back here. There's echinacea, rudbeckia. Whew, sorry, had to go through the tree. And then on this side, we have some verbena right here. There's a bunch of it over here. Creeping phlox again. There's some there too. It doesn't look great this time of year because it's really poofy and bushy and flowery in the spring, and then it looks meh. Got some more irises, echinacea, peonies. I've got a burgundy color, a pink color, and I think I just planted a white one too. There's another obedient plant here, more verbena and supertunias. There's some yarrow in here as well that I just cut back. I've got some stargazer lilies and then some Asiatic lilies that my mother-in-law gave us. I think this is a coralberry plant. And then my lavender plant over the one I showed you earlier had a little offshoot, so I dug it up and replanted it here. Let me see if I can keep that alive. I might have to water that. I'm sure I probably have to water that. And then salvia here. Had some creeping dianthus over here, but it looks like it's died off. So anyway, so that's really the areas we have here. I tried using this cracked bird feeder as a little planter. I had some supertunias in there, some Silver Falls dichondra, and then a purple fountain grass in the middle. I think it's number one, it's too shallow, and number two, because it's so shallow, it dried out a lot, and I am not the best at remembering to water. So I'll either have to get some drought tolerant something or do something different with that. This was the first year I tried that. We have a 9-bark bush here. And then across the way we have a purple smoke bush. There used to be a forsythia there. And I don't like yellow so much. I say that, and then you see all the yellow here. But and then it was really only pretty for like 2 weeks, and then meh the rest of the time. And it was dying at the bottom, like big chunks of the stump were coming out. So we yanked it out last year, and I planted this purple smoke bush there. So I really like that. It's got a lot of oh, there's a monarch. I don't know if you can see it or not. Oh, he just went over to the Rudbeckia. Why do I call the butterflies he's? Dang, it looks weird. Oh, it looks like one of its wings is broken. The top one is torn. I don't know if you can see that or not. Oh, what the heck? I think he's down on another milkweed. That is so weird. I've never seen. Oh, it's just ripped. That poor thing. I don't know if I can focus on it. It's hard to see. Oh, I don't know if I can help it. Anyway, we had a snowball bush called a viburnum right here where this little black area is. It grew 10 feet tall, and it would have the snowball flowers in the spring. And my husband absolutely hated it because it would get those white flowers would fall off and they would get into the pond, and he just hated it. So we pulled that out. I had planted a different type of viburnum in there. It had pink and blueberries on it. I'd have to get the name of it, but it died. So I'm going to have to replant that anyway. We had weeping willow tree here, and we had one across the way over here, and they both died. So I have planted a special kind of blue spruce called a hoopsie or hoopsii, Hoopsii. You can see how bright the new growth is. It is so pretty. I just fell in love with this. Got some weeds trying to grow up through it. But yeah, we got one planted on each side here. So that one over there, this one here. And then we also have planted down here Norway blue spruce or Norway spruce. And then I put in a hydrangea hedge all along the front area there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those are from last year. And then the last 3 are from this year. So the last 3 are struggling because they're water babies and they need water really bad. So I need to get up there today and get that watered. All down our driveway, we have the dreaded Bradford pears. These things are invasive. Unfortunately, there's 14 of them. So if we were to chop all of this down, first of all, our whole land hardly has any shade. So this does provide a nice border along our driveway. I eventually would like to pull them down, but I would want to have fairly good sized trees in there to replace them almost right away. And I almost want something evergreen so that it stays that way all winter. But I don't know if or when or how that will happen. So just something to plan kind of in the future. As you can see, we have some maples. There's a red maple here. I planted a baby little Bruce spruce out there. That tree, the big evergreen there that has probably a mulberry growing out of it because these birds poop mulberry seeds everywhere. That's the edge of our property here all the way down. This area here is what we call our orchard, except for these 2 trees right here are magnolia trees. So those are not obviously growing any fruit, The dead one further down here is a peach tree, and this spring it got peach leaf curl because we had such crazy weather this year. So it stayed alive for a long, long time. It even flowered, but then it just died. So I'm gonna have to yank that out. I saw at Lowe's they have a dwarf Alberta peach, so I might get that planted there. Back here we have an apple tree. We actually had a very large old apple tree there that was not doing very well and the fruit wasn't good. So we had it cut down this spring and I planted a red McIntosh, I believe it is right there. And then here's another apple tree. We planted this years ago and I don't even know what type of apples that is. And we've got two more apples out here. One's a black Arkansas, I want to say, and I forget what the other one is. Here we have apricots, I believe. Here we have pears. This one is so loaded with fruit because I didn't thin it like I should have, and we had a windstorm and it broke some of the branches, but the fruit's still alive. So we're leaving it until the fruit is gone and then we'll cut it back down. We have a pecan tree out here, which our niece gave us. There's some plum trees out there, some pawpaw trees, which I just figured out are understory trees, so they should be growing in shade. So I'm gonna have to dig those up and plant them probably in the back in the woods. So plums, nectarines, or apricots, I can't remember which ones these are. The apple trees out here. I think that's it for our orchard. We have a little bit of a side garden here and one sort of in front of the house, although I haven't done much with the one in front of the house. As you can see, the weeds. I'm really good at growing weeds. They're my favorite thing. Not. I haven't done much with this bed because we were supposed to have a porch built, front porch. We just have like a little stoop with a couple of steps. And we wanted to have a front porch built where it comes out and it actually goes either to where this bumps out or even a wraparound, something that we've been talking about. So I don't have really anything in here except for these lilies and the lilac tree, which was planted years ago before we even thought about the porch. So I just put some annual super petunias in here, and that's about it because I thought this was all going to be torn out. And it didn't get done. We have a tiny little flower bed over here too that's got some lilies in it. I don't know if you can see it in the shade. But the porch would eventually kind of go that way as well. There is a door somewhere here built in for if we have a garage added on. So we're probably going to eventually just take all that out. So here I have 3 clematis. The wind has pulled over my trellis here multiple times, so I've got to cut that back and straighten the bottom legs to it because it's bent them. We've got some hollyhocks here, a rose, some lilies, some yarrow, some echinacea, cosmos, which I planted once last year there, and it reseeded itself there. You can see some here and some crazily growing out through the bricks here, and the wind laid it over. Oh, that poor little butterfly's back. He's going back to the milkweed. Got some perennial chives here. I've got some bellflowers that kind of grow out every once in a while here. They flower in the spring. There's something here. I forget what this is called. I just bought a bunch of it on the Lowe's clearance rack this spring. For some reason, I want to call it thrush, and I know it's not that. I'll have to think about it. I put some asters in just recently here. And then there's a rose back here. You can see my burlesque rose is pretty. The hollyhocks that'll reseed. There's some lilies in here too, but I need to yank all these weeds out. There is a perennial grass that grows right here, but it turns out that we step on it whenever we turn on the hose back there, so that's not the greatest place for it. So I'll have to replant that somewhere else. I've got a reblooming lilac here. And then we have a salvia. There were some knockout roses that I tried to dig out, and that sucker keeps coming back for more. I did plant a clematis here to kind of grow around this little umbrella stand, so I'm hoping that looks super cute. I just planted it not too long ago. There's some Artemisia and garden phlox from my mother-in-law. Another reblooming lilac, which actually had a big chunk die on this side, so it's kind of lopsided looking. This bed I'm working on, I kind of have different colors over here. I don't like orange, red, yellows so much, but over here I'm planting orange, red, and yellow. I had a bunch of delphinium here. I think only 2 of them lived, and then I had a gaura that I had to get in the ground, so I think I popped a couple of them there. There's a sombrero adobe orange echinacea. There's some yarrow back here. There's a catalpa. There's another heliopsis. There's a Stand By Me clematis, some more gaura on either side. And here's Zoe, our barn kitty. Hi, babies. Hi, honey. Oh, oh, I know. She's a sweet girl. She's about 14. She has a little house on her front porch, heated for the winter. Okay, there's an echinacea here that's about ready to fall over. I need to stake it up. There's some roses in here, Lady of Shalott, Louise Clements, and a Lady of Shalott. Japanese beetles have pretty much eaten everything, and it looks like they got to this plant again. Oh, or aphids or something. That's not good. I'm gonna have to take care of this rose. Oh, somehow a milkweed got in here. Over here, I had planted some phlox, which looks like it's dying, and some foxglove. And then we have a lilac here. And then this, I just put up these trellises this summer. So I have silver vine that grows here. That's what all this is on the top. There's some sweet autumn clematis growing through from the other side. There's echinacea, hardy geraniums, dianthus. And even though this says, can't even see if I'm focusing on it. There's a sign that says Zesty Zinger Coreopsis. It's so bright out here, I can't even see if I'm looking at it. Look at these bees. That's maybe not safe for TV. Anyway, so this area, I just put the trellis up so that they could all grow up this. So there's clematis in here too. In the spring, when I cut all this back, I'll be able to see better what's what. But right now it's a mess. I have some butterfly bushes. So here's one and here's one. And then I have an area of some heliopsis. They're really pretty. They're like a brown and yellow, similar to that Autumn Colors Rudbeckia up front. So I've got, I just planted 3 more right in here, and then we've got that patch of it right there. We put in an arborvitae here. This, I believe, is a dogwood tree. It was on clearance at Lowe's and not labeled, and I killed the leader on it, which actually on that willow that I have behind our pond there, I killed the leader on that one too. I had to train a new one. I have a pussy willow here. There's some zebra grass that I transplanted from our zebra grass out there. Cut some of it off, retransplanted it here. And my husband and I just did this weekend. I actually had an evergreen, spreading evergreen, creeping evergreen down in here, and weeds grew in this area and covered it up, and I don't know if it wasn't getting enough sun or what, but I pulled it out and I'm going to baby it in the greenhouse and see if that works better. And I planted a blue star juniper instead. This also spreads. So that should fill in this area here. And then I put in some Agastache, raspberry, meant to be raspberry, Agastache, that I found on the clearance rack at Lowe's. So that should grow a little bit taller, so we should kind of have a step down here with this kind of growing in here. You can see our grass has grown out into the driveway. So my husband's gonna kind of cut all this and see if we can't drag the gravel back out and make this better. It's kind of gotten away from us, unfortunately. So anyway, so that's where that all is. So this is the side yard. This actually is our master bedroom and master bath on this side, and I would ultimately love to have some sliding doors right here, and either a wraparound porch all the way around to our back deck, or like a Three Seasons room or something right here that kind of juts out. And then I would love to make all of this flowers. It's a little tiny side yard. My husband mows it currently. I keep telling him, hey, one less thing you have to mow, because we have over 10 acres, and not granted, not all of it is mowed. But it would be one less thing for him to mow if I could just make this all flowers. But he doesn't like this idea yet, so I'm going to keep working on it. In the back here, you can see we kind of have a little hedge of arborvitae here because we have a hot tub back here. So you can see the hot tub here with our gazebo. And so we have this hedge because our neighbors have a garage out there, and they are out there quite a bit. And I've planted some trees over here, but until those get big enough, we wanted some privacy in our greenhouse. We have some elderberry bushes out here. And this is what we're calling the moon garden. I have a couple of climbing roses here, Eden and Wedding Garland. The Sweet Autumn Clematis is down here. There's a Kinsley's Ghost. This vine, my mother-in-law told me was a moonflower, and it has not bloomed at all, but it is growing like crazy. And now I hear that they're invasive, so I might have to yank that out. I just planted it this spring. I do have a hardy hibiscus here too, some white echinacea. We've got white gaura here. There's a sweet spire, little Henry sweet spire. There is white yarrow. There's a white rose up here that I didn't realize how big these were going to get. There are white daisies back here too. And then this is called something ghost, I think. It's pretty dry back here, and I need to weed. I also have some white wands veronica that my husband wants me to put kind of down here because he says this looks like a waterfall. I don't know if you can see all this because, again, it's so bright out here. He says this looks like a waterfall, and he thought it would be cool to have the veronica bushes down here, like the rumbling of the water when it hits down here. So we'll see. I do have some astilbe as well because this is pretty much shaded. This is probably the only time it ever gets sun. And then there's like a chocolate chip ajuga down here to kind of grow in. The rest of this weeds. I got to get this done. We have red twig dogwoods back here. Let's see, one here, and I have a lilac here that is really cool. It's got variegated flowers, so it's got purple flowers with a white edging around it. Really, really cool. This is my greenhouse. If you saw some of the shorts, you see my greenhouse. We have a trellis. It's the same one that I got on Amazon as the one up front. It's got a Zephyrine Druin, I think is the name of it, climbing rose. It's thornless. It's really taken off this year, so I'm trying to train the canes horizontally because that's when you get the flowers that come off of it in the spring. I have a clematis on that side, which is really cool. It's like a purple and green. You see these? They look so neat. They're different than the most clematis that I see. And then because they like their feet shaded, I put a hydrangea there. Need to water that because I just planted that not too long ago. These are pretty much my Lowe's rescues. 5 of the white wands veronica. I've got 3 roses from Heirloom Roses that I need to get in the ground. And I've got Sonic Bloom Weigela and a Crimson Kisses Weigela. One is from Monrovia, one's from Proven Winners. The black bucket here is that evergreen that I'm trying to baby, but I don't know if it's going to make it because it had some little spikes on it earlier, but they're gone, and I'm worried that it's dead. I have some Cheyenne Skies Panicum, I believe. These are starts from our pine trees out front. So I just put a couple in some buckets, and I'm trying to grow them. I have a purple fountain grass that's pretty much on its way out. This is a Heaven Sent climbing rose. And this, I realized why you don't put fertilizer right when you plant something, because I almost killed this thing. So word to the wise, don't do that. It's bad. I've got some more Autumn Joy Sedum here with a purple fountain grass that I did manage to save. They're so pretty. I love them. Over here, I have a Catalpa growing. Then I have a couple of yarrows I saved off of the clearance rack. These are purple, some sort of a purple berry. It's not a proudberry coral berry, but a purple beauty berry. Third one. My husband mowed this one down like 3 or 4 times, so that's why it's smaller than those two. But it came back, so that's good. I have a queen bee rose here. I've got a lemony arborvitae back here. This is a spirea that I found on the Lowe's clearance rack. This is a hot cocoa rose, so it's kind of an orangey sort of color. This one's a deep red. And then I have a dark desire rose here that my husband weed whacked down, and it's growing back. You can see plenty of new growth right here. I also had columbine planted here, which he wasn't aware of, so he weed whacked all that down. He did realize he was weed whacking something important when he saw this and stopped, but you can see I have ones here. These are starting to grow back too. So, and then there should be one, yeah, right here. So it'll be fine. But he didn't realize, I didn't tell him I planted anything there, and he was going crazy with it. I have a wisteria here. This fenced area is an area where my dogs go to the bathroom. So I do not care if this fence comes down. I hate the chain link fence anyway, but in the meantime, I just wanted something to kind of cover things so that it's prettier. And there is a black pussy willow right here in this corner because the fence is really high, and if there's nothing there, the dogs can get out. I have golden retrievers, but they can still get out. So over here, I have a Vanderwolf pine, and then another arborvitae that we had an extra of that I just planted here. And then this is my sunflower room now. It's partially dying, but it looked better in the July, August time frame. Most of this was self-seeded from last year. We did have this last year, but my husband built these beds for me. He just got these little castle blocks that you can get at Lowe's. And then he popped in 2x6s. You can see those. And then he measured it all out, popped in 2x6s, and then we got some compost and got it all filled up. And then I transplanted all the sunflowers that had kind of self-seeded from last year back in there. And then this is my tallest guy right here. He's drooped a lot. No, he's in the back there. But they droop a lot once the big heads get on them. They're so cool. I leave them for the birds. So as you can see, the birds have picked out a lot of these. And the finches basically live here now. This is their home. They love it. I did put some extra seeds in because I have some pro-cut plums and pro-cut reds and things like that, which are pretty. But most of these, yeah, you can't really see them much anymore. I think that was a plum. But anyway, I did put weed fabric down on the inside. Most of the stuff that's in there are shells from the birds just eating the seeds. But eventually I want to put either rock or mulch in there and maybe a bench or two, just to kind of have an actual sunflower room. That's the ultimate plan. But I think it really helped this year to get these beds down. Granted, I've not been weeding them, but I did find on Lowe's clearance rack some perennial sunflowers. You can see I planted them here, and they've got growth down there. And then there's also one straight across the way right there. So those will definitely come back every year. And then I'll just have to keep an eye on if the birds dropped any along here. I'll dig them up and stick them in there for next year. This field back here is all ours too. It goes all the way back past the trees back there. There's a little creek. This field used to be cut down by one of the local farmers every year. They would just come and bale it for their herd. I don't know whether it was cows or horses or what. But the people that lived here before us, we moved here in 2014. The people who lived here before us had them cutting it down every year. And they would just be like, well, it's free and we just take the stuff away, so you just kind of have a clean field. We have so many milkweeds back here that I told my husband finally, I said, I don't want it cut down anymore. I want a place for the wildlife. I want the butterflies to be back here. So for the last 2 or 3 years, it just grows. And then you can see over here, again, I can't tell if I'm looking at the right place. This is probably going to be an awful video. Where am I looking? Somewhere over here, there's a trellis. I think it's right there. And my husband has mowed paths back here. So he's got about a half mile of paths in this field. We have planted a tulip tree back there. There's an October Glory maple back there. I planted a red maple, it died. And then I planted a blue spruce and it died. I planted some Rudbeckia in kind of a path back there, but it got overtaken. So I think next year we're gonna do zinnias because I have a ton of zinnias. We did cut these 4 patches in this year. We had in here, you can see my celosia still growing here. We also had stock, status, snapdragons, lavender, which are hard to grow from seed, let me tell you. And I killed them all, so it's whatever. Oh, no, I may still have some status back there. Anyway, the stock and the snapdragons died out, so I asked my husband to just mow down. This was stock and snaps. This was all snaps back here. This was snaps and status, which I can still see some status back here in the back. Yeah, this is status. So, and then on this 4th bed, I just threw zinnia seeds down. I just collect the tops of the zinnias every year and just toss them out here. We also have a big zinnia patch behind the greenhouse. In the spring, what is regular spring and spring? In the spring, last fall, I had planted a whole bunch of tulip bulbs here. And so in the spring, this was glorious, full of tulips. I'm going to actually insert a picture here so you can see what it looked like. And then once all the tulips faded, I left up the leaves for a long time so that they could get sun to recharge the bulbs for next year. And then once those started dying off, I cut them all back, and then I just threw these zinnias in here. I did it a little bit later than usual, because usually I'll plant zinnias early. My mother-in-law plants them in May. I think I got these in June or July because I waited for the tulips to die back before I planted those. So when I do seeds in the spring in the greenhouse, then I have these areas here that my husband will till up with the tiller, and we'll put compost in, and then I can grow my annuals for a little bit. So that's what that looks like. I also did plant a little tulip tree right over here. Just planted it this spring. I got it free at a gardening fair. Got my mother-in-law one too because my aunts came with me, and one of them didn't have anything she needed to plant, so she grabbed one for my mother-in-law. So we got one planted at her house too. I picked this up off the Lowe's clearance rack as well. So hydrangea tree. Need to get out here and water it today. We just got this planted last weekend, the weekend before, I think. And then here, where our bluebird house is, in this area are ditch lilies from my aunt's house. They're probably considered invasive too. I don't know. They don't spread here because we kind of have them separated from the yard. I did plant some bachelor's buttons here last year, and it reseeded itself and grew back. So this year I pulled all the seed pods off and I went all the way around the edges with the seed pods and just dumped it. So I'm hoping I can get a circle of the bachelor's buttons around this. We'll see what happens. I got a lot more seed pods there. I should just collect those and try to grow them somewhere else. I don't know. And then other than that, we just have our vegetable garden. So let me show you that. Okay, this is the start of our garden. Like I said, I'm really good at growing weeds. This is our strawberry patch. I was doing great at it in the spring. Then there were several weekends where it rained all weekend. We couldn't get out here and weed anything. And then when we're back at work, it's sunny and great. And then the weekend would come around, we'd try to get out here, and then it's raining again. We just had the weirdest spring and summer, so this got overgrown. We're gonna get a couple of raised beds I think, on the Black Friday sale at Vigo Gardens, and hopefully if we still have any alive, we will dig them up and put them in the raised beds. We have the Seascape strawberries, so they're everbearing. I think getting them off the ground will help because they were getting like black spots and things like that. Here we have some watermelons, again, a little weedy. I'm really good at growing those, but you can see my sugar babies are the darker colored ones, and then we have some pollinator ones that are closer to us here. The next are the cantaloupes. I need to get out here and see if I need to pull any. It looks like I could pull a couple of them today. So I will get those. These are sugar cube cantaloupes that I got from Johnny Seeds. Everybody that has them think they are the most amazing cantaloupe. My cucumbers are dying. We planted over here, there's beans now, but we had originally planted 4 zucchini plants, which we always plant in this area. Never once had a problem with squash vine borers, and this year we did. So we only got maybe half a dozen zucchinis, and then that's it. That's all we got. And then the squash vine borers, I think, moved to our cucumbers. So I think that they have killed our cucumbers. So we're going to rip those out, spread some diatomaceous earth in here, and see what we can. We're going to rotate crops, see if we can do this different next year. Here is our Vigo raised beds that we have now. So we've got tomatoes in here. I need to pick some, it looks like. So lots of cherry tomatoes, and there are some tomatoes that are blushing, so I need to get those. This one, as you can tell, had hornworms on it, and I came out on Friday or Saturday and probably found 6 on this one plant and got rid of those. A couple of them had the braconid wasp parasites on them, which means they're dead anyway. But this tomato has been on this plant since June. But we had such a such a hot summer that it couldn't blush up. So I'm not sure whether I should just leave that or not, or if it's just like done. Anyway, I need to get back out here and check for more hornworms. But I do that at night with a UV light, and then I can see them a lot better. So I tried putting marigolds down. Doesn't do a thing. Hornworms still come. So very frustrating. I also put alyssum down. That's supposed to also prevent that from happening. I also have a grapevine here. As you can see, hopefully it's not dying, but I'm really good at killing stuff, but it looks green still, so I just need to get it watered, I think. We have a trellis here, which is just a cattle panel. This bed I grew garlic in and pulled it all out, so I'm now storing garlic. And this bed had onions in and just pulled all those out. This bed we've got peppers in, so we've got poblanos, bell, and jalapenos. Hornworms apparently get on peppers too, so I found that out. Pulled a couple off of these. I have alyssum also planted in here. We need to get these watered as well. They look pretty. They look like they're needing some water. But man, those poblanos about ready to pull off of here. So that's pretty good. I do have another trellis that I got at Amazon here, and it has a clematis on each side, although this side you can't see very well because of the weeds. Because again, weeds. And then we're back to our orchard now. So this is what we have to work with. We have a lot of projects planned. A lot of it, we want to pull some of this down around our propane tank and plant something different here. My husband does not like these. And we've had several die already. So I think we're going to pull all this out and do something different. Our local garden center has really good sales on trees and perennials this time of year. So you can usually get some trees for pretty good price, usually 50% off. So anyway, I think that's about it for where we plant. There is a little shade, tiny little shade garden up by the trash cans, but it just has some coral bells and what else? Chocolate chipajuga, some woodlands phlox, because that's more shade loving than garden phlox. And what are those other things? bleeding hearts. So that's about it for me. If you have any questions, let me know. This is what we have to work with. I'm going to try to get the White Wands Veronica in the ground this weekend. That leaves me just a few left. I'm having surgery on a foot in October, so I've got to get stuff in the ground before then. So this is it. We'll see you next time. Bye.